What's going on, everyone? Blazinblevins here, and I am bringing you a lot of DLC information for the Dark Below. Now, there is going to be a lot of information here. I am pulling it from about 3 different sources: GameInformer.com, the Bungie Mail Sack Review, and Planet Destiny, okay? If you are new to my channel, this is the first time you ever seen any of my videos, thank you for stopping by. I only ask that you rate, comment, and subscribe. And if you are returning, thank you for coming back. I definitely feel the love. Now, the video that you see on screen is this week's weekly Nightfall solo run that I did where I had to take on the Vex. This is actually pretty easy, assuming that you had the Vision of Confluence, Icebreaker, or any kind of weapon like the Gallahorn that does a lot of fire damage. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and focus on the GameInformer.com and what they had to say on Wednesday article. Now, this article actually created a lot of confusion. That's one reason why I'm doing the video, and Bungie had to come out with a mail sack to kind of explain what they were talking about with Game Informer, okay? One of the big things is your weapons. If you already have exotic weapons, how are they going to transfer over into the DLC? And it's really simple. Each week, Zor is going to come back like he normally does on Friday. You take the weapon, let's say, for example, the Vex Mythic class. You can have it completely maxed out, barely maxed out, or not maxed out at all. And what you're going to do is you're going to take that weapon, plus an exotic shard, and about 7,000 glimmer. You're going to give that all to Zor, and he's going to turn around and give you the Vex Mythic class back. But this time it's going to have a little bit more damage, okay? So this happens, or this is also available for your gear as well. Now, one thing to keep in mind, anything you turn into him and he gives back to you, you're going to have to upgrade again. Okay, so just keep that in mind whenever you're doing it. So if you're limited on exotic shards, let's say you only got 5, but you got 10 exotic weapons, then you just need to figure out which one you want to do first. Now, here's where the confusion lies with Bungie. A lot of people didn't think that you were going to be able to do all your stuff. That's not true. You will be able to do everything. It's just Zor's not going to have it all available at one time. Just like he normally does when he brings new exotic gear, he brings something new each week, and he's also going to be able to do this with your existing gear that you can trade in. Okay, so that's something you might want to keep in mind. Now that's all said and done, let's focus on Eris. Now, for most of you that don't know, which I would be very shocked if you didn't, Eris is going to be the new vendor in the tower when the DLC comes out on the 9th. Now, I hear that the DLC is going to be available for anyone that had the Season Pass or anyone in general that maybe has already pre-ordered it about 5 a.m. I don't know what time that is for you out in your area, but talking about in my area, and I live in the Midwest, so about 5 a.m., which doesn't really surprise me. Everything seems to reset at 4 o'clock in the morning, so I'd actually be surprised if it was 5 and not 4. But anyways, what is Eris? Eris is multiple different things, okay? Now, she has been talked about in the developer video, which I can link that in the description, but essentially, she is a vendor that's going to be available to everyone. I'll explain more about that in a second. But she's going to have bounties. She's going to have gear. I think she's also going to have weapons and missions. But the one thing she's going to have is these things called quest lines. And essentially what quest lines are is they tie the story more together. Now, the biggest thing that was an issue with Bungie that a lot of people hated was the fact that it did not seem like it had a very good story. So what she's going to do is she's going to essentially put it all together. Okay, so when you complete this quest line, just like you would with a Nightfall or anything, you'll get a reward, and then another quest line will open up. Now, here's the kicker. You don't have to have the DLC to be able to do these quest lines, according to the mail sack. I'll get into that more when I talk about the mail sack, but me personally, I'm kind of pissed about that because I am a Season Pass holder, just like many of you, or maybe some of you have went ahead and pre-ordered the DLC. Okay, so what's the importance of having the DLC? Well, it's simple. Your light level will increase. Okay, and if you're big into the Crucible, this is really going to matter when you go do things like the Iron Banner, where light level and defense and all that matter. So you'll have an advantage to someone who does not have the DLC compared to someone who does. From here, GameInformer.com dives into some PvE environment stuff with missions and bounties and so forth, but the one thing is about the raid. So let's talk about the missions. New mechanics that come into Nightfall, which will be at level 30 now, is something being introduced called a Dark Burden. And essentially what a Dark Burden does, it eliminates your ability to jump. Now, just imagine that doing a Nightfall with a light switch and you can't jump out of the way. It just changes the entire strategy. Now, the biggest thing for me is the raid. Now, they're doing things differently in this raid compared to what they did last raid. I'm not quite sure if it's going to really matter which way you go, but they noticed that a lot of people were not using their Ascendant Shards and everything to upgrade their material. They wanted to save those for the raid gear. Now, here's what's going to happen. Your raid gear is going to have its own currency. okay, to upgrade that. They still want you to use your other gear, like your legendary gear, which will also be a higher level as well. but they want you to use your Ascendant materials for that, and your Ascendant energy and so forth will go towards your raid gear. Now, the cool thing about this is the raid is going to pay attention to what you already have in your inventory and try not to give it to you again. And it's also going to track the last time you had what they call a fun drop. So to me, that's pretty cool. And, you know, in my mind, I'm thinking, way to go, Bungie, way to pay attention. Now, they did say that the weapons, here's the catch, the weapons are only available at the end of Crota's mission. So like a lot of the exotic weapons. For example, you got this, the Vex Mythoclast. The only way you could get the Vex Mythoclast was after beating Atheon on hard. So this is going to be another one of those instances. And finally, the rest of the article goes into talking about PvP, which is some of the things that we've already seen before in some of the videos that Bungie has already announced. But just in case you don't know, we're going to have 3 new multiplayer maps, and those are going to be Pantheon, Cauldron, and Skywatch. Okay, so now the next bit of information has everything to do with Bungie had to say in their weekly mail sag. Now, this is really just about the GameInformer.com article because a lot of people seem to get a lot of things confused. So if any of this sounds redundant, I am truly sorry. I'm just reading exactly what they said. So, in the first part, Deej, who's the community manager, went on to explain what he meant by Zor and trading in your thing. So a lot of people were asking questions like, is Zor the only way to obtain new exotics? No, of course not. They'll drop as part of new loot tables. So I'm kind of wondering what new loot tables is. I'm just thinking that's probably the new exotics that are going to be in the DLC. Another question. So I have to buy new content to keep up. This is what I was talking about earlier. No, all players will have the options to progress. So I'm wondering exactly what is it that us Season Pass holders are going to get, and I think that's just the new light level, and I think Crota's end. It really kind of just aggravates me a little bit. Now, the last one said, does this make all my gear worthless? We kind of already discussed this a little bit. No. D said he's going to be holding on to his old stuff, and remember that goes back into trading things in to get better things, but you're going to get it back, but you're just going to have to rebuild it, all that kind of stuff. That's what Deej is talking about. Deej then goes in to talk about some more stuff about the DLC, some things like how Destiny will continue to provide new ways to evolve, the Dark Below will contain exclusive options to level up, we kind of talked about that a little bit, more powerful exotics will drop or be sold by Zor, more powerful legendaries will drop also or be sold by vendor, more powerful raid gear will drop, and more often, and so on. And just like every update, there's going to be fixes coming as well. There's going to be a fix to the Pocket Infinity to fix the charge rate, how it charges too quickly after the first shot. And then we all know by now that the daily event reward packages will no longer be delivered by the postmaster, but you will automatically get that right after the public event. Now, some of you probably already know that, probably seeing how you're getting Ascendant Shard and Ascendant Energy right out the bat, where before you had to go to the postmaster, okay? So you haven't got that fixed yet. It is coming, and it will be available when the DLC goes live. Now, another one of my most favorite things about this whole weekly update is the fact that it's talking about the Crucible. There's going to be some changes coming to the Crucible with the Slaughterhouse rules. So if you're on the team just kicking everyone's butt, or you're on the other team getting your butt kicked, in event of a massacre, at the end of the round, all teams will go back to space, and it will find you a new match, okay? And this is happening all over the place, especially in team-based playlists, and Rumble playlists, and public playlists. Now, speaking of public playlists, here are some things that Bungie had to say. There are going to be limited time playlists. Salvage and combined arms will be available to all players, okay? Bastion and First Light have been moved out of control in Clash to combined arms, okay? Now, premium playlist, there will be a new playlist content that you'll be able to play right away. Playlists will require the Dark Below DLC to enter, so that's going to be some good news for you Season Pass holders, so you're not getting completely dicked there. Each week we'll have 2 additional premium playlists. 1 week we'll have Clash and Rumble, and then it will rotate from there on out. And then our favorite event in the whole Crucible, the Iron Banner, will return once again in December 16th. But all your hard work before, it's looking like you're just going to have to do it all over again, because he says right here, he'll reset event standings like a new session. And finally, everything finishes up talking about Crota's endgame, which we already talked about a little bit about that, and some error code message fixes coming at the next update. To wrap things up, let's talk about PlanetDestiny.com. Now, they came out with their own little article detailing what to expect when you get into the DLC Dark Below. Now, it's a very, very good article, and I suggest if you're really curious to see what's going to be there as far as how light levels are going to work, what kind of raid weapons are going to be there, what kind of exotic weapons are going to be there. They go through an entire amount of information, so I definitely recommend that you take the time to check it out. One of the things that I did see on there, and I have read a little bit, that really catches my eye is the new weapon called the Murmur. And what you're going to be able to do with that, you can alternate between arc damage and fire damage. So linking that information up with what we already know about the DLC Dark Below, we already know that the wizards are going to have solar damage shields. We already know that the knights are going to have arc damage shields. This will allow you to switch between both. So that is a big handy weapon that I can see a lot of people going to in the next DLC. So I hope all this information was helpful for you today. Again, I know I'm jumping around. A lot of this may seem redundant. I do apologize about that, but I'm trying to make sure that you have all the latest information as much as possible. If you want to read all the entire articles, or you want to read the articles in their entirety, you can check out the links in the description. I got the planetdestiny.com. I went ahead and put in the mail sack, and I also went ahead and put in GameInformer.com article, and you can read the links for yourself. So definitely recommend taking the time to do so. And remember, if you're new to my channel, please remember to take the time to rate, comment, and subscribe. And if you're already a subscriber, I thank you for coming back. Until next time, YouTube, peace.